During World War II, Hungary developed an unguided anti-tank rocket system known as the 44M Macethrower, or as in Hungarian called the Buzogányvető. So this unique weapon was designed to counter the heavily armored Soviet forces on the Eastern Front because those Soviet tanks posed a significant threat during the conflict to the Hungarian army. So in this video, we explore the features and the impact of this Hungarian innovation. So, as the Eastern Front World War II raged on, Hungary found itself in need of an effective means to combat um, the Soviet armor and Soviet tanks. In 1942, the Hungarian Institute of Military Science developed an easy-to-produce anti-tank weapon. I mean, initiated to develop this anti-tank weapon. While Germany was working on a wire-guided missile, they were unwilling to share this technology with Hungary, so Hungary had no choice but to develop one for themselves. And at this time, Hungary didn't have a chance to look around and export or license build anything. We have to look at the position of Hungary. Hungary is a landlocked country in Central Europe, and especially 1940s, were surrounded countries which were allied with, although these countries were hostile against each other. So, for example, if you look at the case between Romania and Hungary, Romania took over Transylvania from Hungary after the First World War, and before the Second World War, Hungary gained back like half of Transylvania. So there was like a very hostile atmosphere between these two countries. Also, between First World War and Second World War, there's also a Romanian-Hungarian war in the 20s, which Hungary lost. So it was a very difficult situation with the two countries because they were both allied with Germany, but they were both eyeing up each other like, we're gonna have some trouble with each other later. If you look in the south border of Hungary, it was bordered with Serbia, which is occupied by Germany and partially Hungary, and then Croatia, which is become independent from Yugoslavia, but they was sort of like occupied Germany, and they also become independent from the Hungarian kingdom. So they were not really very friendly with Hungary, nor they had any manufacturing capabilities to invent or build anything what Hungary could look for. Western side they had Germany, which actually Austria, but Germany occupied them. And the north we had as a border Slovakia. Slovakia again was part of Hungary for a very long time, and they become independent after First World War. And during Slovakia being part of the Hungarian kingdom for however they been, the Hungarian kingdom didn't really respect the minority in Slovakia. So once Slovakia became independent, they were not really friendly with the Hungarian state because the previous deeds and anyway. So there was nothing really around Hungary. There was no one in the country around Hungary that could aid Hungary with any weapons or they could import anything. Um, Even when Hungary was looking for build their own or improve their tank forces, they ended up importing licenses from Sweden and building the license built vehicles in Hungary. But in 1940 to 1943, already the war was going ahead at the time that Hungary had to develop anti-tank weaponry which could fight the advanced American and Russian Soviet forces and tanks. The 44M Macethrower, it was a rocket system that was designed as a twofold anti-tank and anti-personnel weapon. It consisted of a launcher capable of holding two rockets and with the gunner positions on the weapon's left side. A tripod mount was developed for ground use, but it was often replaced by captured Soviet wheel mounts, um, put them on the back of a truck, or even some version was built and put on the back of told it to light tank. So technically, Hungary built a rocket launcher and then they installed it on the back of a light tank. So it was quite innovative at the time. Wasn't really successful, but it was innovative. So the 44M Buzogányvető system or base thrower system was featured with two type of warheads, each tailored for a specific purpose. The high explosive anti-tank warhead, known as the Buzogany or called Mace, this warhead packed a formidable punch. It contained 4.2 kilogram of explosive and It featured a shaped charge capable of penetrating of 300 millimeter of armor or concrete. So this devastating projectile had the capacity to take down of any tank of World War II in theory, including heavily armored heavy tanks for a maximum distance of 1,200 meters. Also because of the high explosive charge of it and the capability of penetrating armor and concrete buildings, it could be used against bunkers or strongholds. So it was a very capable warhead. The second version was the high explosive warhead, and they were referred as Zapor, which means rainfall or shower. So the high explosive warhead was intended for anti-personnel use. While not designed for tank destruction, it was effective in dispersing infantry formations, so making the 44M Macethrower system is a very versatile application in theory against enemy armored vehicles. You could use them against enemy bunkers and enemy personnel. And both type of rockets were stabilized. So it was quite effective for long range and thousand meter. And because of the simplicity of the weapon, it didn't really need so much training or so much thought into it, right? You put the weapon down, you aim and you shoot. Because the rocket repellent, it had a very straight trajectory. You didn't have to really think of that, like, okay, how much up or down I have to aim, with when I'm aiming at target. This rocket launcher is actually reached the front. They manufactured it. They rolled out and reached the front. The 44M Macethrower played a crucial role in the defense of Budapest during the harsh winter of 1944 and 1945. Um, Approximately around 6 or 700 rocket launchers were produced, and the majority were employed to protect Budapest. That was Hungary's capital city, and the importance of the city was Hungary. It was Hungary's capital, and Germany declared the Hungarian capital to be a stronghold. So when the Soviet army arrived, they had no choice but to siege the city. Germans didn't let the Hungarian army evacuate the civil population, so that was a very bloody fight and with a lot of casualties, and it's a very sad story of history. Especially like that time, Hungary tried to change sides. They realized that they're not really fighting on the right side of the war, and they tried to jump out. Unfortunately, couldn't happen because the Germans knew about this plan, and then they captured the Hungarian governor, and they put their own leader in Hungary who was like devoted to the Nazi cause, and he wanted to fight until then. But that's the story for another video. I'm not gonna go into details in this. So most of these rocket launchers which was produced were used in this siege against the Soviet army, and they proved quite useful. And because of their small size and because of the very mobile capability, because they were very lightweight, especially in city form and city fight, you could use it very effectively. Because if you think about if you have an anti-tank gun, which is like quite bulky, you have to tow it and you need manpower to move it, reload it, and all this kind of stuff. This was very simple, a one-person gun, right? One-person weapon. You aim, you shoot, you pick it up and running away with it. I mean, maybe not running away with it because it's heavier than that, but you can more easier move and change position than if you handling an anti-tank gun. So this weapon was actually quite innovative, especially if you look at from that perspective that Hungary didn't really have much of a economic strength or manufacturing capability. Yet they came up with this design because of the need, and they couldn't develop or build heavy tanks to come to fight the Russian or Soviet forces. So they had to improvise. And the 44M Maestro an improvisation, result of an improvisation, which actually worked and worked out well. Of course, it couldn't change the course of the war, and they never produced enough to have a significant impact. But yet, this is one of those weapons which you don't hear about and you never learn about, or you rarely come across. And if you come across, you're just like, oh, some strange weapon, not really interesting. But from my perspective, I think these weapons are the actually most interesting weapons of World War II, because we read thousands of articles and watched thousands of videos about the almighty Tiger tank or the Sherman tank, and we all know about those ones. But these small little weapons and low production weapons of small countries, I think those are the very interesting ones, because they are really showing the ingenuity and the capability of improvisation of small countries when they had to reach a goal of protecting themselves or help their own armies. So that was for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and would be help a lot. So thank you very much, and see you in the next one.